Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 164 based on novel. So let's start. Hihi, I've heard your name for a long time. It's said that you are very brave. You play with the 4 main doors. Today, I want to see it in person. What's wrong with Xiao Yang in the rumor? Huiting stepped forward and stared at Xiao Yang coldly. He outlined a sneer at the corners of his mouth and shocked his body. It belonged to the powerful momentum and pressure in the later stage of the 3-star fighting emperor, so he immediately burst out from his body, like an invisible hill, and overwhelmed Xiao Yang. At the moment of this powerful momentum, Huining standing next to the old man sneered. Although he had heard of Xiao Yang's previous achievements in ancient ruins, he didn't see it with his own eyes. He just thought it was Zhuo Lin's exaggeration. After all, Xiao Yang's strength is only 6 stars and a half emperors, which is an indisputable fact. How could he be the opponent of the strong fighting emperor? What's more, he is still facing Huiting, who is in the later stage of the 3-star fighting emperor. However, when Huiting's words came into the ears of the Lin family and their sons and Xu Songming's grandparents and grandchildren, the faces of the two families changed together at this moment, and they couldn't help showing a look of horror. At the same time, they couldn't help showing a look of fear in their eyes when looking at Xiao Yang. He is that Xiao Yang. In the ancient ruins, Xiao Yang, who killed a group of strong fighting emperors by his own strength. At the same time, Lin Zheong could not help but withdraw a few steps back. The shock in his heart was even more unparalleled. He could not imagine that Xiao Yang, who shocked the whole western region, would appear in front of him, and he almost started with him. Once he reached that point, he could not imagine what kind of land he would end up in. It's only with the help of the array in the ruins at that time. In the final analysis, the death of those who fight against the emperor is still the function of the array in the ruins. How can they fight against the strong against the emperor with the strength of only half the emperor? It's just a false rumor. You believe it. Aside, Huining scolded coldly, with disdain in his words. With such a family, you also want to squeeze into the 4 families. Do you deserve it? He glanced at Lin Zheong coldly. Huining took back his sight and scolded again in his heart. On the other hand, Bai Ying turned a blind eye to this, and even sneered in his heart. For Xiao Yang's strength, he saw it with his own eyes in the ancient ruins last time. The real combat power is far higher than his own strength level. With this momentum, he wants to suppress Xiao Yang, which is undoubtedly a strange dream. Xiao Yang, I suppressed it. Huiting's face was fierce, and he drank coldly in his heart. His momentum was more powerful than the previous moment. In the face of the latter's imposing force, Xiao Yang could not help but frown slightly. He was naturally not afraid of this pressure, but the problem is that he is now in Shencheng, which is the territory of the 2 families. Now that his identity has been exposed, if he is dragged here by them again, I'm afraid he will bring endless trouble to himself. You must leave here as soon as possible. Xiao Yang bit his teeth hard and said to himself in his heart. Then, he raised his eyes and directly met Huiting opposite. He looked sharp and fearless in his black eyes. Now that his identity has been exposed under each other's eyes, Xiao Yan naturally doesn't have to hide and tuck in. He simply takes out his real skills and shakes back this guy's momentum at the fastest speed. The primary purpose at the moment is to leave here first, not to be brave. Varja Glassbody, get up. Because of the disadvantages of force image resolution, Xiao Yang didn't use force image resolution first, but met his opponent with the most familiar Varja Glassbody. When Xiao Yang gave a low cry in his heart, Xiao Yang was full of gold all over. In a twinkling of an eye, he became a giant King Kong god. His huge body stood in front of the people like a hill. His body trembled slightly, and bursts of buzzing tremors could be heard in the world. Then, the oncoming terrorist pressure was like a tsunami, which was heavily pressed on Xiao Yang. However, with the exertion of the body of diamond glass, the pressure was naturally reduced a lot. Drink. Carrying the terrible pressure falling from the head, Xiao Yang's body was shocked, and his powerful physical strength was displayed at this moment. In addition, Xiao Yang's fighting spirit and huge soul power were combined, which really stopped the momentum. What? The appearance of this scene, not only a few people in the sky, but also those spectators in Xiafang City, also showed a look of surprise on their faces. These people in the city live here all year round. Although they can't say they know all the people of the 2 families, they can also guess that Huiting is a member of the Hui family based on their pride. As for Xiao Yang, Huiting disclosed his identity in front of the whole city just now, and the people in the city naturally know it. At this moment, seeing that Huiting's momentum was stopped by Xiao Yang, the faces of the people in the city below suddenly solidified. They had heard that Xiao Yang was very powerful. Now they are really strong. With the strength of the half-emperor, they can compete with the strong fighting emperor. What are the people who can do this in the whole continent? What a terrible strength. That's the pressure of the strong man fighting the emperor. He was forcibly blocked by the strength of the 6-star and half-emperor. Is this guy really just a half-emperor? This son has extraordinary strength and can be called such a terror. If he grows up in the future, I'm afraid he will become another legendary existence like heaven and earth. It seems that not all the wars that have been spread among the ancient ruins are false rumors. His strength has indeed reached the level comparable to the strong man fighting the emperor. It's hard to imagine how he practices. The appearance of the scene above the sky also attracted a continuous sound of exclamation in the city below. However, between the breath, the huge Shencheng was boiling, and countless eyes fell on the golden figure above the sky like a spotlight. At this moment, the figure seemed to be really a King Kong giant god, standing proudly between heaven and earth. Any power placed in front of him is in vain. High above the sky, Huiting's face was also stunned. He also didn't expect that Xiao Yang in front of him could really resist his momentum. Before this scene, he wouldn't believe it anyway, but now. These are almost impossible things in everyone's eyes, but they are really in front of him. This. You. How possible? Huiting widened his eyes, and the horror in his heart made him a little incoherent. After a long time, he just spit out a word. Xiao Yang, who was incarnated as King Kong giant god, ignored this. His body suddenly shook like a hill, and the terrible power swept away like a volcanic eruption, which forcibly shook back a group of people around him. After that, Xiao Yang did not hesitate, identified a direction, moved his body, and showed his feet in an instant. He chose to leave without hesitation. Up to now, since his identity has been exposed, he naturally has no need to hide. However, this is the territory of the Hua family and the Bai family. Whether he is afraid of these people or not, his fists are difficult to defeat 4 hands. Now, no matter what, he can only choose to leave here first. With the speed of Tianjua's step and the people who were forcibly retreated around him at the moment, Xiao Yang took this opportunity to flash and disappear in front of the people of the 4 forces. When several people in the sky came back, Xiao Yang in front of him had disappeared. While Huiting was angry, the look on his old face also became iron blue. He thought he would be able to catch a mere half-emperor, but Xiao Yang in front of him was far beyond his imagination. It's not what a semi-emperor can have. Damn it. If you want to go, I'll see where you can escape. Chase, no matter what today, you must leave Xiao Yang here. Huiting drank coldly, and his body moved, so he quickly chased after Xiao Yang in the direction of disappearance. After that, the others looked at each other and immediately followed. After displaying the Vajra-glazed body, the black robe covering Xiao Yang's whole body dissipated, and his breath had already been exposed between heaven and earth. In addition, Huiting himself was a 3-star fighting emperor. It would not be difficult to catch Xiao Yang's breath. On the distant sky, Xiao Yang has dispersed the Vajra glass body, but unfortunately the position has been exposed. At the moment, it is difficult to hide his breath. Therefore, Xiao Yang has to try his best to show his best to avoid the pursuit of the people behind him. In the rear of Xiao Yang, Huiting and Bai Ying, the 3-star fighting emperor, are the fastest. However, in a short time, they can vaguely see Xiao Yang's back. It has to be said that although Tianzibu is terrible, Xiao Yang's strength is poor. It's too difficult to easily avoid the pursuit of Huiting and others. As for Lin Zheong and Xu Songming, they are far behind Huiting. After all, their own strength is not better than the latter, and there will be a gap in their speed, while Bai Zhon's 4 people stay in place and wait for the arrival of their families. In the void, Xiao Yang's body was like a black lightning, and the sharp wind blew rapidly from Xiao Yang's side, bringing a harsh sound explosion. Where he passed, the mountains and forests below were also marked with a depression like a mountain canal by the terrible wind pressure brought by Xiao Yang. After Xiao Yang's body flashed, which depressions gradually recovered. Huiting and Bai Ying followed closely. With all their strength, their speed was a little faster than that of Xiao Yang. The distance between the front and rear sides was gradually shortening. It must be only a long time before Huiting and Bai Ying would catch up with Xiao Yang. Damn it! It's coming so fast. Aware of the 2 rapidly approaching breath behind him, Xiao Yang couldn't help but coagulate slightly in his eyes. He bit his teeth hard, shocked his body, and the speed of rushing forward increased again. In a twinkling of an eye, he had disappeared in the sky. Xiao Yang, where to escape? You can't escape my palm today. He noticed that Xiao Yang's speed was speeding up abruptly, and Huiting uttered a cold hum. The look on his old face became ferocious. His body suddenly shook, and the soles of his feet trampled on the void several times. Each foot would break the void, and his body was like an arrow, cutting through the void at a very fast speed, thinking that Xiao Yang would chase away quickly. Later, Bai Ying was not willing to show weakness. At the same time, they didn't notice that behind Huiting and Bai Ying, a figure in a black robe quietly kept up in the invisible void. The situation of chasing after each other lasted for an hour. During this hour, Xiao Yang spared no effort and tried his best to move forward. Until now, Xiao Yang found that although he left Shencheng, he entered the territory of the Bai family all the way. Here, as long as Bai Ying is willing, he can mobilize his own people here in the shortest time. If he wants to intercept Xiao Yang, it's no problem. However, before this scene appeared, Xiao Yang had been stopped by Huiting, who came later, with the potential of attack one after another. Xiao Yang, I promise I can keep a whole corpse for you in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for being cruel. When Huiting's palm turned over, a long sword fell into his palm. Staring at it, the long sword was impressively different from an ordinary sword. The difference was that the blade of an ordinary sword was straight and sharp, but this sword was different. The blade was not straight at all, but a blade with the same shape as a sawtooth. From this point of view, once the sword fell on a person, I'm afraid it's impossible not to tear off a piece of meat. Bai Ying on the other side was a big hand, and the dazzling thunder rose from his arm. After winding around his arm for a week, he turned into a thunder gun in his palm, pointed at the tip of the gun, and the cold light pointed directly at Xiao Yang. Xiao Yang looks around and frowns deeper. At this moment, there are wolves in front and tigers in the field. Once they start together, even if Xiao Yang makes great efforts to help, he may not be their opponent. With this in mind, Xiao Yang can't help feeling dignified and helpless. At present, the road ahead is broken, and he has no way back. Facing the 2 3-star fighting emperors, he can only hurry up. There is no retreat, only a war. Hiss. The right hand fell, and the light in the palm flashed. The huge dark weight ruler emerged inch by inch and was held in the palm by Xiao Yang. The weight of the huge ruler sent out a hissing sound in the void with the fall of Xiao Yang's palm. The cold wind pressure made people shudder without fighting. I thought you could only escape. Huiting grinned and sneered. Even if Xiao Yang carried his momentum and authority, if he really started, he was confident that he could suppress the latter. Of course, the fact is true. Before reaching the power of duty, Xiao Yang can only fight with the strong one of the star duty at most, not to mention the 3-star duty. Huiting's laughter fell, and the long sword in his hand was raised like a sawtooth. The cold light reflected from the sword body. With the injection of fighting spirit, the whole long sword exuded a faint fighting spirit. Bai Ying on the other side also raised the long gun in his hand and injected fighting spirit at the moment. Thunder like a small snake coiled around the long gun. As soon as Bai Ying gave the order, those thunder would blast at Xiao Yang with the momentum of destroying the sky and the earth. Aware of this, Xiao Yang's palm holding Shen Chongkai could not help but tighten slightly. A trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead, and the fighting spirit in his body did not dare to rush out carelessly. Different fire surged up and condensed into a pair of different fire armor on Xiao Yang's body surface. Although he knew that it was only a pair of different fire armor and could not play a great role in such a battle, but Xiao Yang still condensed it. The brilliant sunshine is like gold sand pouring on the whole land. The sky has gradually faded. A beautiful glow can be seen in the distant west. The golden wheel shining sun, which was originally afraid to look directly, is gradually falling towards the west mountain. Between the distant mountains and forests, on the void, 3 figures stand out. Just looking at the situation in the field at the moment, it's a little bad. Drink. It's said that you have the power to fight against the emperor and the strong. Let me see how capable you are, Xiao Yang. Above the void, Huiting had a glow on his head, and the red sunset glow shone on his whole body, making him look like the sun that was about to set in summer, like an old man at dusk. Of course, it seems that it is almost dusk, but the strength of the old man is unimaginable. Now he is at the peak. At the moment when the old man's voice fell, his body suddenly shot forward. The long sword in his hand pointed directly at Xiao Yang. The cold flash at the edge of the sword. The old man's body was as fast as lightning. It seemed that he was going to take the latter's life at one fell swoop. Xiao Yang didn't dare to neglect. He waved the giant ruler in his hand and made a hissing sound in the air in front of him. The strange fire rose with the storm and quickly spread to the whole giant ruler and wrapped it all in it. The giant ruler picked up and fell, and the ruler orn swept out. Facing the storm, it turned into 1,000,000 feet of red orn. It was magnificent and bombarded the oncoming Huiting. 7 broken sky ruler. Little skill. Huiting disdained to sneer. His long sword shook in his hand. While rushing forward, he drew several sword lights in front of him. Although the sword light did not have the magnificent momentum of Kai Mang, it was more solid in strength. At the moment when the two collided, Xiao Yang's Kai Mang broke. It's too much for a half-emperor to dare to show off his ferocity and ability in front of the strong fighting emperor. Huiting disdained to sneer, but at the same time, the depths of his eyes also inadvertently flashed a look of surprise. However, he quickly converged. Today I'll let you see the gap between you and the strong fighting emperor. When Kai Mang was broken, Xiao Yang was shocked. The other party was indeed worthy of the 3-star fighting emperor. This strength was not comparable to that of the ordinary fighting emperor. With his current strength, it was impossible to fight against him. What's more, there was a white wind behind him. The former was fierce and the latter was eyeing. If he was a little careless, may fall into an irreparable situation. Power image resolution, Kai. Xiao Yang didn't dare to keep anything in his heart. The plan for now is to leave here first. The situation is dangerous, and Xiao Yang can't care so much. At the same time, a huge virtual shadow came out behind Xiao Yang. In his hand, he held an illusory giant ruler in the shape of a mysterious heavy ruler. The attack in his hand went forward with Xiao Yang's action. You dare to come again. It's beyond your strength. Break it for me. Seeing Xiao Yang's attack coming again, Huiting immediately gave a cold hum of disdain. As soon as he turned his body, he already appeared in the sky of the virtual shadow. His long sword flew in his hand and chopped down heavily against the virtual shadow behind Xiao Yang. Drink. The shadow behind Xiao Yang moved, and the huge foot in his hand rose, which easily resisted the attack in the old man's hand. At the same time, the more terrible force also poured into the old man's body along the long sword, making the old man's face change rapidly. Damn. He has strange strength. Is this boy a Warcraft? The muscles on Huiting's old face twitched and showed a grinning appearance. The whole arm holding the long sword was completely numb at the moment, and there was a sharp pain from the bones under the flesh and blood, which made Huiting a little patient. But in a flash, Huiting had calmed down, but he didn't dare to underestimate Xiao Yang's eyes. Xiao Yang can even come to this day. Naturally, he has his own ability. After the collision just now, Huiting has clearly found that Xiao Yang's strength is really not what ordinary semi-emperor strong people can have. That strength is enough to make Xiao Yang run rampant among the semi-emperor strong people. I'm afraid even in the face of ordinary emperor strong people, he is also able to fight one of them. Thinking of this, Huiting couldn't help a burst of cold in his heart, and his fighting spirit churned in his body. With a wave of his long sword, he went up to Xiao Yang again. Bai Ying, what are you doing there? Since this boy is the one named by the sect leader, we should naturally work together to catch him. We must not let him run away. The long sword danced and collided with the virtual shadow war behind Xiao Yang for dozens of rounds. Both of them were regardless of you and me. For a moment, even Huiting had no choice but to turn the spearhead to Bai Ying. As long as the latter shot, Xiao Yang was absolutely unable to resist the 2-3 stars fighting the emperor. The latter couldn't help but frown slightly when he heard the speech. Unexpectedly, he hadn't seen it for more than half a year. Xiao Yang's strength has risen another level. Now, even 3 stars can't win him easily. Of course, they didn't know that Xiao Yang was able to fight Huiting for dozens of rounds without losing. What he relied on was just power. The powerful elephant will definitely add to his body. During this period of time, Xiao Yang will not feel any pain, so the speed and severity of his hand will not change. Huiting is different. In the face of the strange shadow behind Xiao Yang, even he can't help feeling headache. In this way, Xiao Yang will naturally be invincible in a short time. Of course, I'm afraid we'll have to wait until the battle is over. Finally, Bai Ying was in shape for a while and waved his long gun. Only then did he join the battle circle. He was just watching outside the battle circle. The reason for doing so was not only to give Huiting an opportunity to show his strength, but also to leave room for Xiao Yang. I thought that with Huiting's own strength, he should be able to suppress Xiao Yang. I think Xiao Yang won't lose in a short time, even if he doesn't have to do it himself. But Bai Ying is stunned by the situation in the field. Instead of suppressing Xiao Yang, Huiting is restrained by the latter. If there is no help from outsiders, let alone in a short time, according to the situation in the field at the moment, even if they fight for another day and night, I'm afraid it's difficult to win or lose. And this also shocked Bai Ying. Think about it. With the strength of a 6-star-and-a-half emperor, we can contain a 3-star fighter and ensure that we will not lose. Who can do it on the mainland today? This guy is a freak. At the thought of this, even Bai Ying couldn't help scolding in his heart. I really don't know which force cultivated such a monster's talent. According to his current growth rate and looking into the future, I'm afraid the whole Yuanwu continent must have his place. With this in mind, Bai Ying looks up, turns his long gun in his hand, and the head of the gun is slightly distorted. He avoids the key of the virtual shadow, but uses the gun to defeat the enemy. This is Bai Ying's last hand. With the sudden addition of Bai Ying, the originally balanced war situation appeared one-sided in date and time. The strength of the 2-3 stars fighting the emperor was really not covered. The strong joined hands to deal with Xiao Yan, who has only 6.5 stars. If this was spread, I'm afraid it would be laughed at by people. However, in the war situation at this time, I'm afraid it's the only way to suppress Xiao Yan. After all, the latter's strength is really weird and tight. All their offensives were resisted by the virtual shadow behind Xiao Yan. From beginning to end, Xiao Yan was unhurt, and this is exactly what bothered Bai Ying and Bai Ying most. Otherwise, I'm afraid Xiao Yan would have been their captives long ago. How could it make them so much trouble as now? Damn it! Doesn't this boy have any weakness? With that virtual shadow, our offensive can't cause any damage to him at all. On the contrary, he hasn't weakened his momentum from beginning to end. Ting scolded angrily. He had never seen such a strange fighting skill, which could resist all the damage of them. Except that the high-level fighting skills were narrowly avoided by Xiao Yan, every sword and shot of them would be resisted by the virtual shadow. This ghost was like an invincible existence, which annoyed both of them. However, compared with the two people at the moment, Xiao Yan's heart is more dignified. Others don't know, but he knows very well that all the injuries caused by the two of them to the virtual shadow will eventually be fed back to him. At that time, Xiao Yan, who has suffered so many injuries, will be seriously injured even if he doesn't die. He must find a way to get out within this period of time, otherwise, once the power image is determined to disperse, it should be the time of Xiao Yan's demise. Bang! Once again, after a fierce confrontation, Ting was forced back by Xiao Yan with the virtual shadow behind him. Then they quickly turned around and wanted to quickly sweep away towards the mountains behind them. Then, seeing Xiao Yan who was about to leave, Ting immediately showed a fierce color on his face, shouted in his mouth, moved his body, and wanted to come forward to stop Xiao Yan. However, at this time, in the void not far from their eyes, a figure dressed in black appeared in front of them strangely. The sudden appearance of this figure surprised Ting's two faces, and his forward body was forced to stop. From the appearance of the latter, it is obvious that the comer is not good, and looking at this appearance, it is very likely to come for Xiao Yan. Who are you? Ting's face was so blue that he saw the duck flying. How could he be reconciled in his heart? The man who stopped you. Under the black robe, the faint old voice slowly spits out, without the slightest emotional fluctuation. It seems that there is no pressure in the face of 2 3-star fighting emperors at the same time. Ting bit his teeth in hatred, looked over the black-robed man in front of him and looked at Xiao Yan, who was rapidly flashing away behind. At this time, the speed of the latter was much lower than before. It was even easier for him to catch up, but the appearance of the man in front of him interrupted all his plans. The dark night sky gradually shrouds the whole earth. Tonight, the moon is dark and the stars are dim. The whole world is shrouded in darkness. Invisible, there is a repressive atmosphere filled between heaven and earth. Between the vast mountains and forests, the dense forests are dark. In the past, the gloomy mountains and forests have become as dark as ink. From a distance, under the dark sky, there are endless mountains and forests that hinder people's sight. In the distance of sight, the towering peaks stand between heaven and earth like a giant beast under the cover of night. Although it is late at night, this scene also makes people feel a strange shock. At this time, between the dark mountains and forests and among the trees, a dark figure jumped up like a ghost. Everywhere he passed, the trees within a few feet of his body were forcibly destroyed by an invisible force. However, the speed of the figure became slower and slower after several twists and turns, and the invisible power that had been maintained around him suddenly disappeared. Until finally, the figure that was flashing suddenly softened, and immediately fell uncontrollably from the air, like a rolling stone. After several embarrassing tumbling on the ground, It hit the trunk of a tree heavily. With a dull low noise, I looked at it. It was a person. This person is Xiao Yang, who hurried out of Huiting's hands not long ago. After a short flight, Xiao Yang's power image was finally dispersed uncontrollably. At the same time, all the wounds suffered by power image in the previous war were also fed back to Xiao Yang at this moment. Suffered repeated heavy losses. At this time, even if Xiao Yang was not seriously injured and dying, he was still in unbearable pain and his body was difficult to move. The fighting spirit in the whole body had been consumed in the previous war. In the middle of the night, Xiao Yang's face is particularly pale. All over his body are all kinds of wounds and bruises. Some wounds seem to have been forcibly torn off by some sharp weapon, while most of the bruises are basically hurt by Bai Ying. Nevertheless, Xiao Yang knows that Bai Ying has been reserved in the battle, otherwise, at this time, he may have been seriously injured, not to mention sober. The severe pain from all over the body made Xiao Yang's body have to curl up together, and the consciousness in his mind was gradually dim. Invisible, there was a cold feeling that wrapped Xiao Yang's whole body. Xiao Yang is clear in his heart that this is a sign of impending coma. Once he is unconscious at this time, he is very likely to be found by the two guys. Anyway, he can't pass out now. No, can't sleep. Never sleep. At this moment, Xiao Yang's heart seemed to have something calling him. After a short moment, Xiao Yang, whose head had become more and more gloomy, suddenly opened his eyes, which was different from his pale face. At this time, Xiao Yang's eyes were scarlet. In the depths of his eyes, there was a purple flame burning. 3000 Yang. 3000 Yang fire, known as the immortal fire. As long as the fire does not go out, no matter how many injuries there is room to ease. At the moment, Xiao Yang is trying his best to recover the injuries in his body with the help of the mystery of 3000 Yang fire. Of course, there are only 3000 Yang flames, but it is still far from enough. Although the different fire is strong, it is not the noumenon after all. At the moment, Xiao Yang's help is still limited. If you want to quickly recover the injury in your body, you still have to rely on the power of pill. The palm stained with blood was raised to his face. Xiao Yang endured the sharp pain on his body. As soon as his palm turned over, a round pill appeared in the palm of his hand. Without hesitation, Xiao Yang immediately swallowed the pill. After a short time, the powerful medicine spread rapidly in Xiao Yang's body. Although the medicine was strong, it had no impact on Xiao Yang's body. It only made Xiao Yang extremely painful when the medicine passed through his internal organs, but then it brought about the improvement of the injury. Feeling the gradual improvement of the injury in his body, Xiao Yang slowly breathed a sigh of relief in his heart, but his mood was still afraid to relax. The remaining soul strength poured out carefully and kept alert to the situation nearby. At the same time, on the other side, Huiting and Bai Ying are facing the strange man in black who suddenly appears in front of them. Their faces are solemn. Who the hell are you? Huiting's face was gloomy. It was not difficult to hear an anger from his voice. Although everyone is a strong man fighting the emperor, the strength of the mysterious black-robed man in front of them is obviously above them. Because just now, in the collision between them, he and Bai Ying couldn't make a profit from the black-robed man. I wanted to separate one person to chase Xiao Yang, but it's impossible. The other party's purpose, it was to help Xiao Yang stop them from the beginning. It doesn't matter who I am. The important thing is that you can't leave here with me. Under the black robe, the faint voice of words came out, but it made Huiting's face more gloomy. We are from Tianjian Gate. If you dare to stop us, you are against Tianjian Gate. Oh. This time, the old man chuckled and replied. You. Hearing the contemptuous laughter, Huiting immediately became angry, and then he seemed to suddenly think of something. His eyes narrowed suddenly, staring at the black-robed man in front of him. His eyes swept through the deliberately blocked collar of the latter, and immediately looked up and said in a deep voice. You're from the space auction house. Under the black robe, there was a look of surprise on the old face. Even if it turned into a smile, it was non-committal. So it's you who blocked the news from our jade slips in the auction house. Seeing that the runner had not denied it, Huiting continued with a gloomy face. Hearing this, Bai Ying's face on one side also showed a look of surprise. As for what he thought in his heart, I don't know. Help Xiao Yang escape. Are you going to make it public that you are the enemy of our 4 major sects? You know, Xiao Yang is the joint target of the 4 major sect. Oh, 4 big doors, are they strong? What are you talking about? The old man opened his mouth lightly, and there was a smell of contempt in his words. When this word came into Huiting's ears, it made the latter angry. He had never seen it before. Unexpectedly, someone dared to evaluate the 4 main doors like this. The so-called 4 major gates are just making a difference in Shaolin area. You may think too highly of yourself. Others are afraid of your 4 major gates, but we are not afraid. The black-robed old man smiled coldly, completely ignoring the iron-blue faces on the 2 faces in front of him at the moment, but at this time, behind Huiting, a large group of people flew towards this side from a distance, and in a twinkling of an eye, they had come to Huiting's eyes. The visitors were divided into 2 groups. One group was dressed in white robes with the word white written on the badges on the chest, and the other group was dressed in black robes with the word Hua engraved on the badges on the chest. These 2 groups were the strong ones of the Bai family and the Hua family. At this moment, in front of them, there was a young man leading the team. They were the young masters of each family, Bai Zhon and Hua Yuning. Father. When he came near, Bai Zhon gave Bai Ying a respectful cry. Bai Ying nodded slightly and touched Bai Zhon's 4 eyes. Ha ha. Seeing this group of people who arrived in time, Huiting suddenly became surprised. The sudden support made him happy. As long as they were there, even if he and Bai Ying were trapped here by the black-robed people, these people could also go into the mountain to search for the trace of Xiao Yang. Ha ha, God helps me too, old boy. Today, I'll stay here with you. As for you, go into the mountain immediately and find Xiao Yang inch by inch. Be sure to find the trace of Xiao Yang. Huiting first smiled coldly at the black-robed man, and immediately turned his eyes, and then returned to the group of people behind him, laughing and ordering. When the Hua family heard the order, they immediately nodded. The Bai family looked at the Bai Ying father and son in the field and seemed to be waiting for their order. Elder Hua-san, Xiao Yang's strength is extraordinary. He has Tianjue step. In addition, I'm afraid he has left this mountain long ago when we were restrained by him just now. Bai Ying frowns in his heart and asks Huiting tentatively. No. I saw with my own eyes that the guy was getting slower and slower when he left. I dare to be sure that Xiao Yang must have been seriously injured in the previous battle. His virtual shadow can never completely resist our attack. I'm afraid Xiao Yang is hiding in the mountains and recovering from his injury. Huiting shook his head fiercely. While recalling the previous battle with Xiao Yang, while thinking in his heart, what he said was right. Unexpectedly, he guessed the real situation of Xiao Yang at the moment. Hearing the speech, Bai Ying's heart jumped. Indeed, he also saw the scene when Xiao Yang left. At that time, Xiao Yang's speed was much lower than before. Moreover, he also had doubts about the virtual shadow behind Xiao Yang. There could never be any fighting skills so strong. There is no defensive fighting skill to resist the attack, but it can't be to this extent. From the appearance of Xiao Yang when he hurriedly left, he should also know his situation. I'm afraid there is a great part of the reason why he will get rid of them, that is, to avoid the past of the virtual shadow, so as to make himself fall into their hands. It has to be said that Huiting and Bai Ying's guesses are extremely accurate. They also guessed the situation of Xiao Yang at the moment, and the 2 people went out together, which put a lot of pressure on Xiao Yang at the moment. In the night sky, Bai Ying and the man in black continued to confront each other. As for the others, they all bypassed the man in black and dispersed towards the mountains and forests in the distance. In this regard, the black-robed man didn't stop, but the old face under the black robe frowned slightly and was a little worried in his heart. Huiting opposite him sneered at him. While staring at the latter, he also kept watching the trend in the back mountain forest. Once Xiao Yang appeared, even if the person in front of him was strong today, he was destined to be unable to keep Xiao Yang. There was silence in the dark jungle. Since the group of people above the sky appeared, the warcraft in the mountain forest below was also obediently silent. This time, the Hua family and the Bai family went out together. There were 200 or 300 people in total, and all of them were semi-emperor strong. Among them, the strongest reached the level of 9-star and half-emperor, and there were 4. In addition to these people from the 2 families, Hua Yuning and Bai Zhon, who took the lead, together with Lin Zheong, the leader of the Lin family, and Xu Songming, he didn't want to interfere in the affairs of the 2 families, but who told him that this matter was related to Xiao Yang, but he wanted to catch Xiao Yang immediately. According to Huiting's previous words, Xiao Yang must have been seriously injured at this time. If he could be found, Xu Songming must torture himself and his granddaughter. Hundreds of semi-imperialist strong men came out together with great momentum. The invisible pressure made the world shrouded in a sense of killing. After a small search, the people had no results, but they had to disperse. While these people dispersed, in the dark dense forest, Xiao Yang also sat up hard. The injuries on the body surface have been fully recovered under the repair of 3000 Yang fire. I'm afraid the injuries in the body are difficult to recover without a period of time. Xiao Yang took a deep breath, moved his mind, mobilized a few fighting spirits in his body, and began to refine another pill just swallowed in his body. Over the dense forest, hundreds of semi-imperialist strong men scattered like a huge net, covering a large area of dense forest. The location of Xiao Yang happened to be within their search scope, but fortunately, Xiao Yang's location is at the most boundary of their search network. If they are lucky, maybe they won't find it here. Of course, if you're lucky, it's hard to say. But unfortunately, Xiao Yang's body was seriously injured at this time, and the current situation can't tolerate his carelessness. If he doesn't recover his body in time, I'm afraid even if he forcibly evaded this search and recovers his injury in the future, I'm afraid it will inevitably leave incurable sequelae, which is undoubtedly a very serious blow to the road of cultivation. Xiao Yang will naturally try his best to put an end to it. As time went by, the three people in the sky were still confronting each other. The black-robed man didn't do it, and Hu Tingbai had to frown and wait. With the black-robed man in front of them, they couldn't bypass him anyway. With the strength of the latter, if he didn't plan to do it to them, I'm afraid they have fallen now. The strength of the black-robed man is far above them. I'm afraid it's the worst. They have reached the level of 6-star fighting emperor. Over the dense forest, the scope of search gradually expanded. Xiao Yang, who was refining the elixir in his body, could hear the voice of people not far above. Immediately, Xiao Yang's heart sank slightly. I didn't expect that these guys had touched here so soon. It seems that even the place where he is at this time can't stay any longer. After a short moment, Xiao Yang's body has appeared at the foot of the mountain. In front of Xiao Yang, there is a huge cave. The breath of 9 stars and half emperors is in the cave, and here is its cave. Xiao Yang's footsteps moved, and he stepped into the cave. Roar. Where are the human beings? This is the king's territory. Now go back quickly. The king can spare your life, otherwise you dare to take another step forward and take your life immediately. This video will end here.